It appears that my state of suspended consciousness during which my body was unwinding was abruptly impeded by an aggressive contact between your palm and my torso. My colleague, would you be so kind as to inform me of the reasoning behind your immediately preceding bustle? I no longer desire an explanation, for I have taken note of the device in front of me which is currently indicating that another individual wants to establish a simultaneous voice and video communication link between ourselves.
Attention, reconnaissance unit. It is I, the assistant of your administrator, casually referred to by my surname, Pauling. I have established this mutual broadcast in order to inquire on the whereabouts of the elusive metal crate containing the enemy belligerents' military intelligence and other such classified information.
Be nonchalantly guaranteed that the aforementioned dossier of confidential data you are speaking of is indeed in our possession.
Furthermore, are you able to confirm that no personnel within the proximity monitored your affair?
While this isn't entirely true, I assure you that the population that have indeed beheld this act were of no significant importance. Therefore the cessation of their biological processes had no essentiality to the mission.
Outpost Patrol, my being presently occupies the vicinity of the covered operation.
Be neglected for a small amount of time, for I am about to deliver a humorous tale pertaining to the actions that have recently occurred in that very land.
I extend my kindest regards to you, our female foreperson of single marital status. Rest assured that we successfully proved the mortality by practical experiment of every person present in that location of the time, upon which we proceeded to acquire a compact casing containing what seems to be our adversary's most clandestine documents.
I fancy taking this opportunity to stress that your previous statement was marginally erroneous, infantry combatant, as the number of surviving bystanders amounted up to 7. Good grief. It appears that my claim is in need of a correction, as I have lowered the numerical value of the actively subsisting spectators down by 1. I urge you to continue safeguarding the stash of files not available for public disclosure you have recently acquired. In addition, it is my sincere desire that you come upon pleasant episodes in the following 2 days in a cycle of 7 coinciding with the Sabbath.
I bid you farewell, our announcer's aide. I shall now discontinue to end well the caravan vehicle by migrating through its egress.
Fare thee well, my brother-in-arms whom I acknowledge. My spouseless female supervisor, may I request to hold one final discussion prior to your departure?
Indeed, you may go on with your statement.
Please excuse me, for I am struggling to articulate an apt phrase to begin this conversation.
Surveillance specialist, I urge you to make haste with your comment, for time is of the essence.
I harbor the suspicion of an occupation with various forms of diligent labor engrossing you in the subsequent 2 days. Was my presumption correct?
It is comical that you have brought up this fact, for you see, in the ensuing 48 hours, I shall be engaged with the laying of cadavers to rest approximately 6 feet under the surface of the earth. That being said, I am doing you a generous favor by having you avoid incarceration by law enforcement and subsequent detention in a correctional facility for an indefinite amount of time.
I find your response to be satisfactory. I have also come to understand the fact that the two of us share the commonality of being preoccupied with assorted forms of physical endeavors.
My optical perception boasts the discovery of the mysteries under pursuit.
It occurred to me that the denizens of this facility have sounded an alarm, thus urging me to vacate at once, forcing me to cut our discussion short.
It would seem to me that an indefinite number of persons are unavailable by virtue of one's commissions.
Thanks to my investigation, I deduct that you are inquiring the ongoing monotone sound which the device is emitting to join you on a social activity with the aim of assessing it as a potential partner.
Should you consider my proposal, proceed to abandon the domain of the living, infiltration specialist, and have your soul transferred into the realm referred to in religious fiction as a dimension of eternal torment and damnation. The particularly large quantity of objects present in this area has caught my attention. My colleagues, whose upper parts of your bodies separated from the rest of the body by the neck and containing the brains, mouths and sense organs happen to resemble oval round objects laid by female birds, would you enlighten me on the undertaking at hand? Do not mistake my sarcasm as I compliment the lack of your commitment in preventing the device used for the ignition of a diesel or gasoline-based engine used to operate a vehicle that was tossed in your general direction from colliding with the ground.
Acknowledged, though pay close attention, for we have been engaging in a practical analysis of proper function regarding the physical matter transmitting device. I am concerned about the outcome of the examination. I cannot put it to words, so I would rather have every person present in this room at the moment to witness it firsthand.
Pardon me, but I do not appear to be entertained in the slightest. It would seem that the device is capable of instantaneously transporting flour mixed with leavening agents from one location to another. For me to call it significant novel information would be out of mockery. Has the expert of demolitions returned with the alcoholic beverages? For you see, I am greatly perturbed at the abomination I am currently establishing visual contact with. By the infernal domain, would you be so kind as to provide a general explanation for the monstrosity I am witnessing?
They convey the impression of cancerous growth.
I would like to take this opportunity to inquire whether or not every one of you present in this room are aware of the severity of the circumstances at hand.
I say, given the circumstances, we are no longer permitted to displace semi-dough goods from one location to another without it traversing the distance.
I urge you to calm your tensions, military trooper. If you so desire, you may change the physical place of scent of gradual transition with an indefinite quantity of baked products made of flour, dough and water from one location to another. While I am at the subject, I would like to emphasize that I'm addressing everyone present. Should you aspire to complete any sort of task before the permanent termination of our life functions, this would be an excellent opportunity to go through with such matters.
Are you able to estimate the time it requires for these cancerous growths to disseminate in such a manner that it lethally concludes our extant presence?
Allow me to hastily conduct this calculation. The amount of times we utilize the device for immediate repositioning would average 6 instances every one Earth's rotation around its axis. I shall now multiply this equation with 4 times it takes the Earth to make a full orbit around the Sun. With all, I am required to also take into account that we are in fact Homo sapiens, rather than baked goods. Indeed, if my calculations prove to be correct, we shall submit to a halt of animation in enough time it takes our planet to rotate around its axis roughly 3 times from this very moment.
Greetings, my fellow brothers in arms. For I have returned with the alcoholic beverages so that we may indulge in reckless intoxication in order to celebrate the final 2 days of the batch of 7. I say, I have taken note of the melancholic atmosphere present in this room. Would any of you be so kind in updating me as to why a dark aura is enveloping this facility?
Observe. For what is placed before you can be described as a metal canister.
Beloved deity in the heavens, I hereby address you in an astonished fashion.
However, I have yet to conclude my statement.
I find myself unable to accept the fact.
The contents within said pot are the written down happenings, authored and hoped for to come true by all attendants in this room before their respective inevitable vital decays. Inform me, professional sleuth, have you met my expectation in securing each person's piece of paper upon which is scribed what they desire before their operative life force is begun?
With great confidence, I affirm that you would be unsuccessful should you ever gamble in favor of the contrary.
A most sought-out positive outcome. Adult males of courteous conduct, adjust the dials of your timekeeping devices so they shall count down to your casualties in harmony. Our lifespans meet their end point in 4,200 minutes at the present. This would be a negligible momentary interval to the predominant portion of Misters. Nevertheless, our identities collectively differ from the majority of the total male-gendered population. Specifically, we are distinguished by being soldiers of fortune. We have a sufficient amount of drawn-upon supplies, along with the mental determination required to turn said time frame into a worthwhile term. The chronograph is making an audible sound for each passing second, my fellow men of well-mannered stature. Allow us to commence. We have here the premier longing aforetime decease inscribed by the entrepreneur of battlefront exploration. It strikes me that he has produced an illustration containing a caricature of myself suffering a collapse provoked by a collision with a self-propelled wagon. Moreover, my cartoon self is detailed with an emission of unidentified nature.
Indeed, the radiating cosmetic in question would be penstrokes indicating reeking odor. They served as the motive behind the impact between him and the causal agent, the wheeled motor vehicle, all due to the fact that the handsome rogue transmits a rancid scent.
Indubitably, there is however no need for further clarification, as I now fathom the reasoning behind its inclusion. In this next exhibit of a wish, you've constructed an art piece depicting myself, engaged in an ongoing copulation with Gustav Eiffel's lattice steeple. Conversely, this painting portrays the towering wrought-iron Champ de Mars monument delivering sensual penetration upon my body in turn. I, along with the structure commonly considered to be the cultural icon of France, unwinding ourselves in order to attain increased calmness, ensuing what can be assumed to be the aforementioned sexual intercourse. In this consecutive drawing, my sketched replica is shedding tears in response to sorrow, while the tallest construction of Paris discharges surrounding strokes which symbolize it having an offensive smell. Aside from the aficionado of combat zone inspection has a single Homo sapiens-made deposit of a paper sheet, with the cylindrical tub of metal as its depository.
An exclaim from yours truly, in regard to what an established prototype it is for me, the trained lookout, to carry out a deed such as this.
I say, what a turn of events with imaginary proportions. Indulging in this undertaking has revealed itself to be a colossally improper temporal expenditure for yours truly.
If you would lend me your concern, I have come to realize that none of the articles which you deciphered were that of my own.
Out of discontent worthy of an audible exhale, I will ask the following: does the combination of glyphs written down on the sheet you hold represent an English statement describing your inclination to acquire this very truncated steel cone?
Your assessment accommodates reality.
I shall meet eye to eye with each and every one of you within the confines of the afterlife destination for sinners in Abrahamic theology.
How startling.
To whomever knocked, spatially distance yourself from the immediate area nearby me.
Forgive my timidity as I vocalize my desire to initiate a conversation with you. Would it be in your realm of possibility to lend me your diligence for a 60th of a minute?
Oh, it seems to be you, reconnoitering professional. If you may be so kind, proceed to engage in sexual conduct with your own person, for your previous actions have insulted me greatly, to the point I no longer wish to speak with you until further notice.
I find your reply to be entertaining, therefore it would seem to me that you are passively approving of my entrance into your quarters. You see, I am going to. Sabotaging enthusiast, please, I urge you to halt your current course of action. Your current activity is causing me great injury, one which I consider unjustified, as I've arrived at this location in order to excuse myself for my previous actions and would therefore like to atone for my shameful acts.
Assure your matter be drawn to a close by the pass of a narrow moment.
The fact that I've never recorded my final desire I wish to complete before the termination of my vital functions was inaccurate. You see, my actual concluding aspiration would be one where I participate in an affectionate venture with the aim of possibly assessing a lover, the recipient of such an activity being our unmarried female supervisor that we happen to casually address by her surname, Pauling.
Have I correctly understood your sentence if I interpreted subject as the second person in this conversation? If so, endure my objection when I say that your proficiency in interacting with young members of society of the opposite gender is drastically below sufficient.
Is your assumption of me truly that foreign from my own? Nay, I say, to the proposal of such a belief prevailing true. No indeed, as it would be counterfactual, obtainer of confidential information without the permission of its holder. Please pay visionary attention to my general body parts, particularly my left arm, followed by the details found on my face marked by my hand gesture. In fact, I implore you, underground operative, to scrutinize every last caliber of my physique. Deemed my chuckle an oppositional remark on your misunderstanding regarding how equipped I am in fraternizing with youthful females, as it actually is of a tremendous degree. It would appear that we both share the commonality of being in possession of cylindrical cardboard cartons containing the heat-processed limbs of once domesticated fowls. As such, I see it fit that we participate in sexual intercourse with one another, with your consent, of course.
Upon evaluation, your request warrants my compliance.
However, clandestine operative, you happen to be capable with dames of good breed and social stature. I shall now provide you with several examples of what I am referring to, such that appear to be emitting a pleasant odor, and happen to be literate, as well as utilizing a device used for correction of optical functions, but do so in a fashion that would make them appear to be slightly out of the ordinary. I do not think I possess the charm to seduce persons with the features I have described.
And do you happen to be aware what the cause of your conundrum is?
Agent in charge of completing surreptitious tasks, I do not possess the wisdom it takes to pass a correct judgment as to why I'm suffering from my current dilemma.
Then, we shall never acquire knowledge on this subject, as our persistent state of being will be overthrown by mortality and thereafter most certainly be reallocated within the confines of respective memorial resting places before this enigmatic complication can be expanded upon. My kindest regards, and farewell.
I urge you to interrupt your vacancy of my close quarters. I have now come to a conclusion which I would like to share with you. However, before I commence with my speech, I request that you keep the information which I am about to disclose to yourself for an amount of time that would roughly equate to about, shall I say, everlastingness. It would appear to me that in every way, shape and form, you possess greater capabilities to complete any task imaginable in an utmost superior fashion than I could ever hope to achieve. Now that I've reluctantly divulged this factoid, I would like to humbly request your assistance.
In that case, it would be an honor to provide you with said assistance. Alas, there is one requirement I demand you complete beforehand. Repeat your previous statement in yet another bout.
Remit the clearing of my throat.
Please compel my amorous faculties to sense attraction from your person.
If I may be so bold, may you clarify to me that the object in the imperative sentence you just uttered, is in fact you, the person I am presently addressing?
Allow me to sternly reiterate upon my request in pursuit of assuring you of the redundancy in suspecting that I have misspoken, that I desire you to assume a figure that is charming to me.
I beg your pardon, my undercover agent associate. For the ill-suitedness of this task baffles me to the point that I shall refuse this call for my concurrence to—
Your inability to heed my twice-recited inquiry leaves me at naught of a choice but to once more bid for your cooperation in erotically persuading me, though this time through a raised tone of voice to emphasize my impatience of your mistrust in my words.
Positively, all correct. You have swayed me into accord with your entreaty. Consider the following my endeavor for your affection. Greetings and salutations, individual of above average superficial demeanor. I grant you the knowledge of a current possession of mine, namely a foodstuff canister containing edible remains of poultry lives.
For anyone to conform to the belief that I should consider myself a derelict madam, with taste for seared domestic hen, insults me with great magnitude. On the contrary, I am a gentlewoman, the breed with appreciation for male partners, who meet the requisites of a threatening encounter, as well as a thrilling conundrum. Should you ever desire the permission to share a romantic bond between the two of us, it must strictly be rewarded through an effort proportionate to the worth of retaining me in a relationship. Accordingly, nominate me the recipient of a successful seduction. We have come to my hindmost of inquisitions, which jibes as follows. Supposing you have agreed to a bonding encounter with another person themed with a meal typically eaten in the evening, intended to take place at the point in time when the hour hand of an accurate clock points at an angle with a 240 degrees positive increase from the starting angle of a unit circle, granted it shares a plane of existence parallel to said clock's face. At what hour of the diurnal course should you make an appearance at the locale of the event?
I shall arrive at a septenary quantity of hours following the birth of the day. Anti-meridium, so to speak. Then, I shall canvass the quarters of whatever eatery this state may take place inside, and thereafter compile any criminal and/or financial records the employees at the establishment may boast. Should the head culinary artist turn out to be an unreliable individual to place my faith in, it would be essential for me to ensure his fatal casualty come forthwith. The hypothetically assassinated chef would then be carried out of the bounds of the incident, to then be relieved of any culinary duties by a substitute under my service, at a time not succeeding the moment of day referred to as 4:30.
Your answer demonstrates your preparedness aplenty.
Ought I presume your claim to be in full honesty?
Your reaction amuses me, as the truth would be the opposite. Sarcasm aside, bar none, the entire lineup of your enunciations were that of deranged ramblings. Moreover, you will find that the occasion that allowed for this activity to take place is thoroughly expended by now. You have my acknowledgement of your achievement, the achievement in proving yourself as an underachiever, that is.
Woe is me. I understood right when I heard the unsuccessful subject was me, correct?
Indubitably.
Are you sure that me having failed is a legitimate understanding?
Indeed so.
Are you sincerely positive that your judgment of my flop is free of error?
My skirmishing colleague, what is your intended end goal of our ongoing discourse?
The destined conclusion for our exchange is for you to recognize that my qualifications to woo in romantic excursions trumps any need for your intervening support. Hence my plan is to carry it out unaided.
Are you truly intending on succeeding, relying solely on your independent volition?
Indeed the case, person of elaborately decorated legwear. I shall set out on this task and complete it all on my own. May I thusly propose you securing hold of the diminutive element you deem to be unsuccessful, to then make it ready for transport elsewhere by amassing it in a lateral motion, followed by the for excrement's sake. In understanding of your gesture, it is essential for me to proceed by walking. Howbeit, I want you to get fastened by a process of drilling.
As I am soon to perform a significant step in our mutual operation, let me inquire you about whether or not you are prepared to deal with whatever aftermath may follow.
Be enlightened that I am adjusted for what is to come.
I say, this peculiar loaf element is truly repulsive.
I think, therefore, I am.
How curious of a spectacle I find before me.
Embrace yourself for my impending strike.
Most shocking, I say.
I'm fed up to the back teeth, Doc.
Bear with me as I uncontrollably let out a shriek, as a remark on my fear of this ongoing assault, in combination with my lack of expectations for it to ever occur.
My disapproval of what I witness calls for a stereotypical vocal alert to the doctrine of an unholy underworld.
Your preparation is ample, by which I mean my own, as it brings me confidence to hear this motivational statement outside of first person, of my affirmation.
Calling, the mademoiselle. To encounter you, I say, is an utmost unforeseen subversion of expectations.
The nondescript third person seized the dispatch box into their possession. Despite this unfortunate revelation, one must not woe, judging by our capability to make amends to undo this complication. I'm confident that in the near future, it will be retrieved by us, seamlessly enough for the person with supervising authority, of whom I am a loyal assistant, to at no coming occasion obtain knowledge of the incident.
The merit of your physiognomy is, starting over, your visible stature is one that I find Excuse me while I reassess my unarranged vocabulary for an applicable adjective.
I would suggest describing her as alcohol intoxicated.
The label near spherical I find rightful, or tenderly smooth. Nay, I restore my identify to near spherical.
Lacking definite focus is another term I advise.
Wait no longer, for my chosen description is
Acknowledged.
I return the compliment.
Be neglected while I unravel the contradictory presence of the caboodle of classified records which was supposedly misappropriated. May I ask you, disciplined enemy line auditor, if our collective pairing is involved in a promenade dance event?
affirmative, yet negative. Certainly so, yet I need to process a fitting reply.
In regard to what is noted, the circumstances are such that
Have my obeisance, comrades in arms, and provide me with your attention. Contrary to our suspicion that our bodies will suffer tumefaction, it has come to light that only comestible loaves are victim to such a mishap.
Additionally, we have misidentified what was previously thought to be neoplastic tissue. They in actuality seem to be a variant of melanocytic moles that are conscious of their environment and state of being, only capable of permeating its continued expansion within a setting of perfectly unadulterated grass of the genus Triticum. Now afford your vision to what will occur on the hereabouts.
You're twisting my knickers, Albine.
Goodness gracious, the encapsulated entity has grown seriously prodigious feelings of contempt toward my being.
Good show, quite entertaining.
In conclusion, each and every one of us is found in safety, provided the condition of no individual adopting the fault of instantaneously relocating compounds of baked wheat mixed with dietary liquids.
I face an enigma which I fancy expressing.
Please, military frontline enforcer, would you enlighten me of your puzzlement?
I am responsible for transmitting the physical matter of uncoated pastries via instant relocation.
Pardon my concerned intrigue, but may you rehearse your activity?
It surprises me greatly that you appear to be perturbed, as I distinctly recall you explicitly encouraging me to complete this task.
Would you be inclined to approximate the quantity for me in order to ease my distress?
As for myself, no enterprises were performed, save for the instantaneous transportation of staple loaf foods over a ternary quantity of diurnal courses.
I demand to know at which point in space, to what destination are you culpable for having them dispatched?
Trained Forerunner. The quantity of 24-hour periods per orbital period of the Earth moving around the Sun within which I am relieved from laboring obligations is of but a runary supply. Thus, you have spoiled its singular worth by making me spend it immersed in the scene we attend. I bid you farewell.
Please, I beg of you to remain on hold. Stand by for just a moment, I say. Now then. How about I introduce you the option to converse the details of the situation while we arrange an evening meal consumption?
Certainly, I say. I'm famished.
In the name of the Abyss, I ask for a description of the entity that has caught my attention.
Knock knock. House smashing. Golly, if this isn't a fine appetizer. Heavens above, how I have fallen.
My good dame of single marital status, Pauling, accelerate by propelling your feet rapidly in a manner that transports yourself at high velocity.
Health practitioner, the time to extort the effect of your healing devices at once. Have it you, fiend.
Oh, where did you tease? Good show, eh? Heated, aren't we? Jeepers. Have mercy. Oh, Rickle.
In my humble opinion, your courtship seems to be set on a course quite beyond satisfactory. Consequently, the time has come for you to spatially advance.
I accost you in goodwill, Pauling the spouseless. With much humility, I inform you of my regret for what I have made you experience, one that is vastly immense.
Lord Almighty, light infantry, what would be the distinct concern you are referring to? Could it be the act of administering force specifically upon the very solitary dial which under no circumstance ought to be pushed through an application of deliberate pressure? Have you in any capacity an apperception of the contents stored within a valise of such information? My exclamations. An idea crossed my mind, in consideration of which I now demand you to provide me with your portable arm clock in order to ensure its fruition.
Indeed so. Your statement is of precise appropriateness, for you will discover that it is the inception of the particular enterprise partaken by us both. I retract my comments, as on second thought I need you to bear with me as I...
Laughing out loud, I have transferred flour mixed with leavening agents from one point to another without having it traverse the physical space between.
Throwing your weight roundabout, I see.
Finally, the tale that I have elaborated upon for you up till this point has led the conversation to the segment in which I explain the purpose of said tale, being that I have feelings of admiration for your person, as well as the fact that it would be in high likelihood wise of you to be resting yourself by supporting your body weight with your buttocks against a flat surface as to accommodate for the lengths it will take to fully tell you the rest of what is relevant.
My multitude of gents. These dire circumstances call for you to seal the entryway equipped to shelter against destructive waves of compressed air.
My administrator's unmarried assistant woman with the cognomen Pauling. Please extend me your notice, because for the closing 60 minutes of my continued existence as a living being, my sole hankering has undividedly been to...
Peekadoo.
With urgency, I demand an approach from whoever remains outside relative to these restrained blast doors, considering I preserve them agape merely with my intervening body. This afore the opening inevitably shuts due to me running out of the required endurance and stamina. Oh fiddlesticks.
On review, take no thought to my previous proclamation.
Expedite your terrestrial locomotion.
Oh bastard.
Hear my emotional expression, divine creator in religious literature.
Well, I say, I'm a tad peckish, perhaps. Jumping down throats is rude, don't you know? Oh my, gone out with a boom, I have.
I say, I'm obliged to let the relieved air from my struggles give out an oral response. Pauling, the mademoiselle, do you believe that your state of being is in an acceptable condition?
It would appear that I am unable to experience any sort of sensation underneath the part of my organism that supports my head.
Lend your name to my interjection, cherished monotheistic All-Father.
Notwithstanding the reality of the past, my nervous system has begun receiving sensory feedback properly. It makes me suffer from physical pain. I repeat, physical pain.
In the name of the omnipotent sustainer of the universe, you have my sincerest apologies, as the imbroglio we are entangled in is...
The incident that just transpired contained a gargantuan volume of leisurely enjoyment.
I am thoroughly confused, as you have been angered by my previous actions, yet you seem to be of understanding nature at this very moment. What could be the cause of this rapid change of mood?
Forsooth, my emotional discourse developed into a state of extreme wrath. For the sake of the celestial holiness, the siren signaling the plundering of the folders enclosing furtive archives was activated due to your deliberate irresponsibilities, wherein you also for undeciphered rationale had inaugurated a ball gathering. However, afterward a horrid menacing creature made an encounter, which we subsequently discharged projectiles into, after which the two of us repurposed the wagon into a container designed for detonation at a given moment. Furthermore, judging by my injured state, there is a high chance in my mind that the bones inside one of my lower limbs have partially fractured. To conclude, does our collective preserve the capability to relive the performance that just took place?
Amen, I most assuredly encourage it by all means. Alas, the truthful answer would be the opposite upon revaluation, meaning it would not be within our realm of options, by virtue of my forthcoming passing afore such an opportunity could reveal itself.
Delay any future comments, as I first covet the reasoning behind your most recent one.
A fresh information comes your way. How critical biological processes dwindle naught. Even more contrasting, the span of our continued survival shall scope an infinite while.
You have improperly recited the proclamation I shared with you earlier with your imprecise recollection. What I have uttered is merely the clarification that our bodies are not stocked replete with abnormal swellings of bodily tissue.
I bestow you with my gratitude, O Supreme Being of all existence. All things considered, Pauling the Bachelorette, I conjecture that we may determine a time for cordial discourse in which we explore our romantic feelings for one another, based on your opinion of this experience.
Wistfully, it is my displeasure to point out that we are currently living in the one and only 24-hour duration of the current annual cycle where I am liberated from work in relevance to my employment.
That is too bad of a shame.
Be it as it may, I have just realized that it would nevertheless be feasible for you to accompany yours truly on an expedition by a motor-powered single-track vehicle-mounted transportation in pursuit of arriving at the whereabouts of diversified areas outlined for working appointments, as a compromise. Come the dawn on yonder day, I will with the aid of a power tool equipped with a coated abrasive grind the dactylograms situated on various carcasses in an accumulated stack.
From my assessment of your invitation, I am going to decline the offer.
I believe to have found a task of mine that may be of interest, wherein your assistance could pertain to with great force briskly pull large flat teeth at the back of the mouth used for grinding solid sustenance during chewing out from the mouths of severed capital upper parts of the human anatomy, that in this instance wholly occupy the available space inside a cuboid package.
Much like with the previous proposal, I too reject this one.
In that case, consider this alternative. Come the next 5th day of a Monday first conventional week, it will be duty-bound for me to cause death upon whatever unspecified individual is answerable for implementing stress onto the knob wired to electrical equipment which as feedback generates an auditory notice of how secure dossier of confidential data being under siege, followed by, egad. I've come to realize that your presence at the location of the aforementioned affair turns out to be prematurely assured,